What if Kingambit was in Gen 1 OU? Now, Kingambit's been a bit of a troublemaker. You might have heard about him. He's kind of good in Gen 9 OU. Got banned from Nat decks. And I'm pretty sure that he's getting knockoff in the DLC. Which is terrifying. Although I will say, Kingambit and Nat decks just running like 3 dark moves and Sucker... Oh no, 4 maybe. Sucker Punch, Pursuit, Knockoff, and I forget what his signature is. A physical dark move. Just running like all 4 of those and then giving up black glasses. That was super funny. We need more things like that. Because that just... like, it was just hilarious. But he wouldn't really have that in Gen 1. Now would he? Even if he had knockoff, it would be a special move and only 20 base power. That's not very good. And oh yeah, that's right. In Gen 1, there's no dark moves, no steel moves, and there's no abilities. So his, Widow Supreme Overlord ability would just not exist. But despite that, he still has pretty good stats. Or amazing stats, really. So would he still have what it takes to be good in a Gen 1 OU environment? Only one way to find out. So, just like I just said, the stats are still really good. The only thing that was kind of mid is his speed, which is honestly more OS actually is kind of just bad. But because of Sucker Punch, he doesn't really care that much about it. But how bad would the speed be in Gen 1? It's the exact speed as Chansey. So, in many ways, it's not that bad, but also, like, abysmal at the same time. Because in the grand scheme of things, Kingambit doesn't really care that much. Because with Steel and Dark as its typing, it's immune to psychic moves, it resists normal. And because of that 100 base HP, and that 120 defense, and that 85 special defense, it can actually tank a lot of hits. So for the most part, it doesn't care. And while being like slower than something like Executor might seem like it's bad, since Executor can just put you to sleep, Executor also has no way of hurting you. Same thing with like, let's say Alakazam. It can paralyze you, sure, but that's one of the cases where its base 50 speed's actually good, because it's slow anyways. So while paralysis is annoying since you'll be losing turns, there's no way that they can actually hurt you, which is definitely a good thing. Now, I will say that the main problem that Kingambit will be suffering will be lack of moves. Because obviously he has no stab, and he might not have just moves in general. Like if we just look here, we got Low Kick, which, yeah, it's off to a bad start when the first move we have to give him is Low Kick of all things. Although, considering that with him being a Steel type, he probably wants to face the normals anyways, I don't think it's that bad. Especially since he doesn't have Earthquake, which is unfortunate. Rest, I think it's very good. I don't know if you can really fit it on. I think some sets could. It just depends on what you want to sacrifice. But definitely something worth considering. So no one's surprised, Sword Stance is usually a must-have. Although I would probably say if you needed to replace one move, it would probably be Sword Stance. It just depends on like what set you want to run. Though there's unfortunately not too many sets you can run. Thunder Wave, I'd argue, is a must-have. Because you are so slow, and because one of your main moves is going to be Low Kick, paralyzing stuff like, let's say, Tauros or Snorlax can help you a lot. And it can pretty much help you win a 1v1 without potentially losing much health. So, it has, like, a little bit better than I thought. And I think the last move it can learn that's relevant is Hyper Beam. Because, our Slash is okay, but I'm not sure if it's a guaranteed crit with base 50 speed. It might be, But also, I feel like low kick is good because since you're paralyzed and stuff anyways, you prefer to like potentially try to go for a power flinch. And then sword stance with hyper beam is just absurd damage, where especially with just 2 sword stance, you could one shot, I think, just literally everything in the game. So maybe you could put Slash on here, but I'm pretty sure this is probably just the best moves that you can actually give it. Like, I could be wrong. This depends on what you guys prefer. But, yeah. Admittedly, it's pretty funny that, like, despite him being a dark type, one of the best dark types the game's ever seen, he has absolutely no way of hitting ghost types. So, Gengar just completely walls him. And that is hilarious. But despite that, I would say it's not that bad. Like, for Gen 1 standards, I say this is pretty usable. In many ways, I think it's similar to Pinsir, being a bulky sword stance setter, but you replace Bind with Thunder Wave, which I would argue is much better and much more useful and versatile. And obviously, Kingambit has the better typing. While a ground resist on Pinsir, it's nice, you definitely appreciate it. In immunity to Psychic and resistance to normal, rock, flying, which is, it's kind of good, but like also like it's just Zapdos trope exactly. And I don't think there's any other relevant attacking types that Steel resists, but that's already a lot. And normal and psychic are the 2 most common in the game, and it tanks water and electric moves pretty decently. So honestly, much better than I thought. I thought he would be like bulky, but that'd be it. But it honestly looks like Kingambit has the ability to make tank hits and dish them out as well. Let's look at some of the replays, shall we? Always gotta start with the boy himself, Tauros. And unfortunately, Earthquake is a 3-hit KO. Or I guess fortunately for Kingambit's case. So Poral Flinch is a very real possibility. I would argue you don't even bother going for Sword Stance. Mostly because of what you just saw. Crits are still a thing, so you're not really safe against Tauros. That is not surprising at all. It's Tauros. Like, it doesn't matter what it is or who he goes against. Tauros will always defy all logic. Snorlax is pretty much the exact same thing, but I don't know if you get Tauros, you pretty much win it every single time, I would imagine. Because Earthquake is again just like a 3-hit KO. It doesn't matter if it's Reflect Lax, Amnesia Lax, or just like spam Earthquake and normal moves Lax. You're always gonna be faster, and with Low Kick and Sword Stance, you just like destroy. There's not much Snorlax can really do against you. And against Chansey, having like the exact same speed makes it very interesting. And I'd argue that paralyzing Chansey is actually a must-have, because if the Chansey is faster than you, then you just become less effective at killing it. And I'm just gonna apologize for this replay, because not gonna lie, I actually forgot that I put Sword Stance on Kingambit until the last minute. So in reality, this magic maybe could go either way, but I think in actuality, it just heavily favors Kingambit because of Sword Stance. But this is also a match that convinced me that maybe Rest isn't that bad either. Because Kingambit can't take a lot of stuff, and while it isn't hitting anything super effectively, with Sword Stance, it has the ability to. And being bulky and being a good paralysis spreader is also pretty good. Especially when you're a paralysis spreader that has pretty good defense, it can resist normal moves. A lot similar to Rhydon. But also you're weak to round, so it kind of complicates things a little bit. But also for the most part you're fine. Because as you saw from both Tauros and Snorlax, it's only a 3-hit KO. And Rhydon, to no one's surprise, you just die too. So it really doesn't matter. And then Alakazam. It only has Seismic Toss to really hit you. So it doesn't matter if it paralyzes you, you just get a free Sword Stance. And then you can just murder. Even something like a Rhydon, I would imagine, would take a decent amount of damage from like a Sword Stance boost and Hyper Beam. Obviously, it's like it, yeah, they would take it very easily, and you would just die afterwards. But it's something. And against Cloyster, this is one that or maybe the only case where your speed truly does matter, because Cloyster will always just outspeed you and then will just murder you with Clamp. There's really nothing Kingambit can do unless you get lucky. Cloyster misses Clamp and you go for Paralysis. But even then, Cloyster has really high defense. So what do you think you're going to do? Low kick it, Sword Stance boost, and then Hyper Beam? There's nothing you can really do there. So Cloyster's just an unwinnable matchup. And against Executor, it's funny. There's nothing Executor can do. I forgot Grass is another type that resists. And Mega Drain's already weak as is. So now it's only doing 8%. Are you kidding me? Not like Double Edge or Explosion doing that much either. So I'd say it's actually pretty nice that there's just something in the game that can just completely invalidate Executor. It would definitely change the tier list a lot, and I don't think anyone would be surprised by me saying that. But I don't know if it would be a good or bad thing. You guys can let me know in the comments. One good thing about being faster than Rhydon, though, is you can fish for flinches, but obviously you're just better off just switching to a different Pokemon entirely, unless it's like your last Pokemon. In that case, you're probably screwed. But it's nice knowing that with enough RNG, you can potentially win. But for the most part, it's just an unwinnable matchup for Rhydon. Or for Kingambit against Rhydon, I mean. And Starmie, if it has, let's say, Psychic or Blizzard, you just get a free win. But against those with Surf and Thunderbolt, for the most part, you're still fine. You can definitely afford to go for at least one Sword Stance. But here, Kingambit was lucky and went for 2, which obviously just murders the Starmie. So it's a really good matchup. You definitely gotta love to see it. And I want to know if any of you guys are surprised how good Kingambit's doing, even without Dark or Steel moves. I'm sure some of you aren't surprised, and some of you are. Let me know what you were in the comments. The last one we're going to be looking at here is Zapdos versus Kingambit, where both pretty much have to paralyze each other, and then they can both do pretty good damage to each other. But with Kingambit being able to set up, I'm not actually sure who has the better matchup here, because setting up is very scary, but at the same time Zapdos just has more immediate damage. Actually, no, I take it back. Zapdos definitely has the better matchup here, because Kingambit needs to set up Sword Stance if it's not using Slash in order to try to do decent damage. Meanwhile, Zapdos can just more consistently just go for Thunderbolt. So I think most times out of 10, Zapdos is going to win. Also, I forgot to make the tier list, so let's just do that right now, shall we? It shouldn't be that hard. We'll get rid of these guys, and get rid of you, because the Caterpie joke is dead. Executor will obviously be in great matchups. Slowbro, Cloyster, and Gengar would obviously be an unwinnable, as Kingambit has truly no way of really hurting any of them. Or I guess with Slowbro, he can go for Paralysis and get some Sword Stance off. But you most likely aren't going to actually get to that point. Tauros could go either way. Starmie, I guess, would be in good matchups. Rhydon, I'm going to put him bad, but it's obviously not unwinnable. And then Jinx, I think we can move to great, because being slower and being put to sleep is annoying. But at the same time, Blizzard doesn't really hurt that much. And you only have 8 Blizzards, so I don't think you're going to waste it just trying to spam it on Kingambit. I'll put Zapdos in bad matchup, actually. Because of, I feel Kingambit can't be threatening, but Zapdos can just more consistently damage it. And I just don't see Kingambit winning most of the time. Jolteon's the only one where I'm unsure, but I'm leaning towards it probably being good. Because Jolteon can paralyze it. Or I'll put it quickly either way, because crits are a thing. But I actually don't know. You let me know in the comments what you think. But here is the list. I am honestly surprised. And I would say, even without dark moves, Kingambit might be too good. And I do think that his presence in the metagame would actually kind of make it worse. Because making like these three completely unviable in a 1v1 and like these two being severely nerfed, I just don't see that working out. I don't like thinking about more teams being forced to use Gengar, or Gengar's fine, but Slowbro and Cloyster? That doesn't sound very fun. But it's up to you guys. What do you think? You think Kingambit would be really good? Is Slash guaranteed KO or crit? Should I have needed to look at that? And how good do you think Kingambit would be? You think he'd be a top 5 Pokemon? Top 3? You think he wouldn't be good at all? I'd love to hear what you guys have to say in the comments. Thank you all for watching. This is Kingambit, and I look forward to hearing from you.